this masterclass on how to make fat loss 10 times easier for 2023. So without further ado, I'm going to jump into the presentation. So what I'm going to talk about today is pretty much how to break it down, how to create a daily calorie budget, and also how you go about working out a calorie deficit and how it works. But what I want to cover before I get into that is I've been asked this question: if I'm in a calorie deficit, why can't I have a steady weight loss every week? When people start out on their diets and have read numerous dietary books, I think they get hung up on this because I think people assume that they're going to lose 2 pounds a week every week, when some people might obviously get that luxury and be able to steadily get that throughout their journey. Some people obviously are going to hit a plateau. So I'm going to assume you might have heard about the 1 pound of stored body fat equals to about 3,500 calories. Sorry. If you haven't, obviously that's something new. And obviously we're going to break it down utilizing that formula. So I think the misconception and the assumption is that if you were to cut 1,000 calories daily from your current diet, so that would equal out to be 7,000 calories at the end of the week. In theory, you should produce a 2 pound weight loss over that period of time. So it's actually 2.2 pounds. It seems very simple when you work it out, but that's not exact. When you introduce a calorie deficit at the start of a diet, you'll lose weight, but it doesn't take long before weight loss slows and sometimes stops altogether. With a consistent 1,000-calorie deficit below your initial daily maintenance level, which obviously I'll come on to in a second, the question you need to ask yourself is, why don't you lose 20 pounds in 10 weeks if that was the case? The answer is simple. The figures change depending on your body weight. And this, I think people get hung up on more so calories than what they're actually doing when it comes to an overall transformation. Because what your numbers were 6 months ago, a year ago, are not the same numbers you are in the present day. Because the number of calories you burn initially may be different from, obviously, like I said, 6 months to a year ago. And if you don't alter those calculations, obviously, what you might deem to be, you might think, that you're in a calorie deficit when you're actually maybe in a maintenance phase. So I'm going to explain, obviously, all that in just a second. What you need to remember from this live, if you take anything away from it, is a calorie deficit is a moving target. You need to lower calories to support your more petite body. So obviously I'm speaking more so to the ladies. And obviously if it was a male and you wanted to have a more toned and a slimmer physique, the same is still going to apply, because your calorie that are obviously coming in are going to be lower than your calories coming out, which I was explained towards the end. When you're losing body weight, you also tend to lower your activity levels unconsciously when you drop calories. But most people need to adjust their calorie intake to match their lower energy needs. And I believe when people get this wrong is they fixate on a number, they fixate on the scales, versus maybe more so how they feel, what is their energy levels like, their mood, etc. How you actually feel versus a numeric metric. In addition, most people don't train properly to maintain muscle mass. So if your goal is to lose weight and you go to the gym, the body does not distinguish between muscle mass and, in this case, lean mass. It all populates it into one. And obviously, if you're not getting in enough calories to maintain body mass, the body is going to take the muscle that is stored to create fuel. Or obviously, in the worst case, you don't work out at all. So you can't come to me and say, "Oh, I'm not losing weight," because ultimately, if you are to get maximum bang for your buck when it comes to weight loss, you need to do some sort of muscle training. It could be HIIT training, it could be resistance training, it could be whatever. You need to obviously shift some sort of big weight. And I'm not talking huge amounts, I'm talking like overall volume. That's going to put the body into a state of, well, I need to put on more muscle, thus I'm going to be able to lose more calories as a result when I'm actually exercising. Instead, people try to starve themselves of fat. So this is probably the misconception where people believe they need to lose weight when in fact they need to lose fat. So by starving yourself of nutrients, vitamins, minerals, etc., obviously your energy at the end of the day is not going to change, because if what you're consuming is not level to what your body needs, you're going to feel pretty much not great. And this only worsens because your body is very complex and is redundant when it comes to a series of defense mechanisms to protect you from starving yourself and to maintain a stable weight. So your body is going to be your worst enemy if you go to fad diets, obviously, what are unreliable and unsustainable, because obviously they only work for a period of time and you hit a wall. So don't fall into a trap of eating low calories all the time to lose weight. Your body is brilliant and will protect you as best as it can against, obviously, the goal of losing weight at the end of the day. So don't starve yourself of the fat. Use exercise to create a more significant calorie deficit rather than slashing calories all the time. So this is the misconception that I'm talking about. Be it you could import Weight Watchers there as well. It's the exact same thing. So you can see the food is exactly the same on both sides of those uh, linear lines of what is obviously what would Slimming World or Weight Watchers would say to eat, and obviously what is a calorie deficit. Exactly the same thing. So the food is identical, whereas obviously when it comes to Slimming World or Weight Watchers, it demonizes food. So be it, let's see, avocado, bad. Twix, bad. Gin and tonic, bad. Nuts, bad. Pasta, eat as much as you like. Yogurt, eat as much as you like. Eat as much fish as you like. Eat as much broccoli as you like. But if you were to gain 10 pounds, and this is more from a mindset perspective, oh, I failed on this diet. I lose 1 pound, I'm succeeding. But if your overall goal is the example that I use at the end of the presentation of losing 30 pounds, one goal is 1 pound loss is obviously good, but you've not reached the outcome. And if you were to not, sorry, it's not £10. I can't read it. It's £1 gain is a catastrophe because you're going in the wrong direction. And it's almost like a merry-go-round of I'm failing again if I hit the same weight because I've not succeeded. So it's obviously unsustainable. As I said, it's too complicated. And obviously with a calorie deficit, it's all about education. So you can see that an avocado, Twix, and nuts are food. Obviously, I'm not going to sit here and say a Twix is good, because in not in moderation. A Twix is obviously, I don't need to tell you, is going to make you add and gain weight. Whereas obviously the avocado and the nuts are obviously a healthier choice, but all three are fats. The gin and tonic, obviously, if you drink too much of that, it's a necessary calorie because it's full calories, and you maybe be better to put it into carbohydrates or protein, and thus you're obviously aiding gaining more muscle mass. When it comes to obviously carbs, you're tracking the amount you're consuming. Same with yogurt, so protein and the fats. The fish is obviously the fats again, and then the broccoli. And this is I think people believe to be a myth, is vegetables don't have calories. That's not true. It's a carb like bread or pasta. It's just the same. It's just not as calorific as pasta bread because it's not as starch. There's not as much. It's not got as much sugar in the product itself. When it comes to obviously a calorie deficit, you're going to move more. You're going to eat less calories than you expend, and you're tracking those calories, and you predictably track the progress that you're making from progress pictures. So you're taking a before and after, and you can see the difference yourself. Whereas if you are only focusing on the scales and your goal changes, be it obviously you've gone from you've got to the weight that you now desire, what do you do next? And obviously this is the maintenance phase. So Weight Watchers and Slimming World do not prepare you for that, because ultimately their whole IP and marketing is losing weight. Whereas people need to get more savvy when it comes to maintenance, because that's the goal at the end of the day, is maintaining the weight that you want to desire or long term maintain. So now we come to obviously how do we go about working it out. Swap that back. So we do this by looking at your body weight. So if I backtrack, be it we talked about 1 pound of body weight at the beginning. This is obviously where the calculations come into play. So for pound of body weight of fat, sorry, would equal approximately 350 calories. So the equation that we'll do and we'll implement is your body weight times 15 gives you your maintenance calories. So if the individual weighs, for example, 220 pounds, you would multiply this by 15, which would come out to 3,300 calories. So how do you go about creating a deficit now? Obviously, in this example, I'm going to use 600 calories as a deficit. And I've put, obviously, in quotations, in brackets, but there's a lot more others. And I'm going to come on to another one in a second. you would obviously input this information of 3,300 calories minus 600 calorie deficit in this instance, and it would come out to your to maintain. Oh, sorry. To go into a calorie deficit, you would then consume 2,700 calories a day. To lose 1 pound of fat, you would divide the 3,500 calories divided by, in this instance, 600 calories deficit, which would make you lose 1 pound of fat in approximately 5.83 days. So we'll say, to round it out, 6 days. So if your goal was now, in this case of what I've mentioned before, of losing 30 pounds, you would now go and do 3,500 calories multiplied by 30, which would give you approximately 105,000 calories needed to be lost over time. And I missed that a zero on the other bit, but hey ho, easily done. You would then divide the 105,000 calories divided by 600, which would make you achieve your goal in 175 days, which is approximately 6 months. But what we need to focus on more now that we've worked this out, is how do we work out a calorie deficit? So you can see on the chart that there is BMR, NEAT, and EAT, and TE. So if we focus on, this is being live streamed to my group, which I'll put in the comments if you'd like to join. BMR I've talked about a lot, but obviously it's your basal metabolic rate, so it's pretty much what controls brain function, just the basic things that to be able to survive. So that obviously takes up 60% of your total daily expenditure, and it's pretty much predetermined by genetics. Next comes to NEAT, is your non-exercise thermogenesis. So this is when it comes to everything that is walking. So this is where you need to obviously focus on increasing. EAT is obviously exercise related, so anything that's higher than intensity than walking would fall into that category, which is obviously planned exercise. And T is the effect of food. So those three are obviously dependent on your lifestyle, and BMR is more predetermined by your genetics. So it's more basically, if you were to do nothing, that would obviously dictate that. So what really matters when it comes to, I don't want to use the word weight loss. I want to use fat loss and calories. What is really important, I think most people will assume it's exercise. It's not. We'll say that's 10%, and the rest is 90%. So your digestion of food, your moving, and obviously you need to incorporate EAT and NEAT into movement, and also what your basal metabolic function is a key component of whether or not you lose weight or not. So if we come back to how do we work those out, if we go back to the equation we used before of the 3,500, we're going to divide this, in this instance, by a deficit of 550 in this case. So to lose 1 pound of body fat in this case, it's going to take approximately 6.4 days. So our basal metabolic rate, so BMR, in this equation would be 2000. So how do I get to these numbers now? Obviously, to lose weight, to utilize the loss of weight versus calories, we obviously use the 3,500. We would subtract NEAT and EAT, and then we'll be left with our BMR. So we need to increase our NEAT. So this would be approximately 650 calories. So we need to obviously track the number of steps, number of pushes if you're in a wheelchair at a certain time, utilizing crutches, etc. We need to obviously have this number to be bigger. Most individuals will know about the 10,000 steps you need to do on average a day. Obviously the amputees, if you want to know that, put that in the comments, because there's a different equation when it comes to disability. When it comes to eat, so the exercise thermogenesis, we need to be looking to have a minimum of 3 workouts a week, which would equate to 350 calories. And this is very determinant of if you're above the age of 18, obviously you need to do this. But what that actually looks like is going to be different for the individual. But sequentially, we need to add additional activity above NEAT and EAT. So that could be things such as sports, hiking, something along those lines. And this is going to ensure your calories out. So BMR, NEAT, EAT exceed your calorie intake. So if there's any questions, do put them in the comments in terms of how do you go about working out for you specifically. I've obviously given you that. It's literally inputting your current weight, and pretty much the equation will be straightforward. If you wanted to sit down with me and we go a step forward to that, to what do you do beyond that, because obviously I talked about more so feelings, mental behaviors. Why have you got into that particular predicament? I will link that in the comments as more of a call to action. If that's something that you would do, put call in the comments, and obviously by all means we can have a chat over Zoom to work out a specific game plan for you beyond those formulas to make it obviously more convenient to your lifestyle. I hope you've enjoyed this masterclass today. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Obviously, have a wonderful Tuesday. Have a wonderful day whenever you're watching this. And I look forward to hearing from you very, very soon. And one thing before I forget, I didn't do it at the very beginning. Obviously, it's now the 3rd week of January, but Happy New Year to everybody that's watching this. So I do apologize I didn't do it at the very beginning. So have a lovely Tuesday. Have a lovely day when you're watching this. And I look forward to hearing from you very soon. All right, you take care.